And we're back for the top eight of the TNE Invitational. We subbed out Marvin the Imp for I'm So Bad. So how you doing today? I'm so bad.
I'm doing great. I've been kind of hanging out watching. I'm excited to get to this expedition top eight.
Yeah, so this is kind of a setup that people might be a little bit more used to if they played in other TNEs or the Opens, whereas the group stages might have been a little bit, harder to follow or a little bit more confusing. So, but before we get down to the action, I think you want to talk about the Slimes of Summer or Summer of Slimes, that one. I knew it was
Yeah,
SOS, but
so Cassandrith is doing Slimes of Summer. So all July long, all subs, bits, and ad revenue is going to charity. And that charity, I believe, is the Trevor Project.
Mhm.
Um, So also whenever someone subs, Cass doubles that sub and gives one out to the community. So if you get a chance, definitely check out his stream and support that. And if you were going to sub to Tuesday Night Eternal, we ask that this month you send it over to Cass, and so we can help out that charity.
Yeah, sounds great. So, getting back to the action, so we have a traditional, top eight single elimination bracket. We're switching over to Expedition. And just to give you a rundown of all the players and the matchups we're going to see, starting from the top. So we have Almost against Gosu. Almost has a Xenon deck with Blurred Stymalock. I don't even know how to pronounce that. And Gosu has an Elysian deck with the new Nom Nom promo, which is pretty sweet. ABoss against LightsOutAce is Destruction Heroes against Xena Mid. That's actually where we're gonna start with our coverage of the top eight. Then on the lower half of the bracket, we have Prakalakin against John Cakez. So that's Destruction Heroes against Xenon, but this Xenon build has Big Wheel in it. And then lastly, we have Male against Game Grump. Male has a Feln pretty much unitless deck against DQ Doggo's like 75 of Xenon, roughly. There might be one or two cards that were changed, but it looks pretty similar to me.
That sounds like a stacked bracket. I am
Yeah,
definitely excited to see this action unfold.
yeah. So we're gonna do a quick deck tech. So we're gonna look at Lights Out Ace's Xenon mid-range deck first. So can you break this down for me? I'm so bad.
Looks like a fairly stock Xenon mid-range deck. Looking to put early pressure with Dinosaur Nest and Waystone Igniter. And then it's got Field Medics for backup, as well as Rat King and Dunehill Clan. Pretty much just a ground and pound deck that can looking to control the board early and hit hard.
All right, and then we'll take Xenon through a little fire into it and see what ABoss came up with.
Yeah, this one is a little bit more complicated. I think I'm going to need you to explain this one to me.
Sure, sure. So this one we sub out just some of the numbers move around a bit, but we end up being able to play Still Stronghold and Vikram's Bomb as the main upgrades. So Vikram's Bomb just being a little bit more efficient in terms of the answers and allowing you to race a little bit better. And Still Stronghold puts a certain like slant on the game that other cards don't. So if you just do a bunch of trading one for one and you can set up a Still Stronghold, it can kind of put you a little bit further ahead. Um, it's pretty good with the Carnosaur because you might end up solo attacking with it anyways, and if it has like Lifesteal or Deadly, then it gets more buffs from Still Stronghold. And then it actually, by playing a site, it actually makes it a better field meta deck because they actually have incentive to attack. Meanwhile, if you leave up 3 power and you don't have many other things to do, you're kind of just wasting your power, and then the opponent can just pass the turn back. So by being able to play Still Stronghold, I think that puts a really interesting dynamic on the match. And then Exodus is also an interesting call. A lot of the battles end up being about like relative sizing. So you get a lot of 5/5s. You get like Krogar and Dunehill Clan and those types of cards. And then by being able to play Exodus to be able to pump the team, you might create boards that don't line up as well for the opponent.
This looks like a pretty interesting deck. I'm a little worried about the power requirements, but we'll see if ABoss can show us how it's done.
Well, The top hand from ABoss does run into a little bit that problem that you described in having Call the Hit and two Sigils, and Exodus only being able to make one of the two factions. So we might see a mold there, whereas from Lights Out Ace, the one power hand just has to go.
Yeah, neither one of these opening hands is too exciting. I expect both players will get rid of them.
Yeah, sometimes it just takes a sec because we got first we tell the players to hold, then we tell them they get to go, and like, it's always a process.
So one of my favorite parts about casting these is predicting who's gonna win. Who do you like
Mhm.
here?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with Lights Out Ace. I think the overall composition, like I don't think Shrivel's that different than Vikram's bomb, so then I'm valuing the consistency of the two factions over the attempted increased power level of the three faction deck. How about you?
I'm not sure, but I think I'm gonna give it to ABoss. I like the addition of the sight. I think it adds an extra dynamic to the power level. And if the influence works out, I think it might push him over the top.
It is true that in this sort of matchup, you kind of have more time. Like, it's not like you're playing against an aggressive deck that's looking to end the game by turn five. So you do have time to even draw out of your influence screw if you end up in that spot. So A-Boss, kind of just pausing here, mostly just to plan out the turns. Like, do you want to play Waystone Igniter, and then if you contract, then are you just gonna play a Tome, or are you gonna play the Zoltan Conclave?
Yeah, Waystone Igniter has been one of those cards that's really impressed me. It's done like 8 to 12 damage for one many
Mhm.
times in my games, both for me and against me. And it always surprises me how much damage a one drop can do.
Right, it's a utility card that allows you to have an aggressive aspect to your deck, which is kind of rare, especially in Expedition where the card pool is a lot smaller.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that and the charge guy are
The
the two one
Battlefront Dasher?
drops.
Yeah.
Battlefront Dasher, thank you. Yeah, are the two one drops that really have been like leading the way in expedition damage.
Right. Well, what really helps with both of those is that they're one drops, and even though you have to pay the contract of two, they trade with like th two and three drops anyways. So the overall tempo ends up being pretty similar, but there's not so like many people are just wasting their turn one playing like tomes or even just nothing. So the fact that you're able to utilize power in a time where you normally wouldn't be able to is a huge advantage.
That's true. Yeah, expedition definitely doesn't have the quality of fixing that Throne does. So the power is a little bit wonkier and slower.
So we see A-Boss actually taking a little bit easy, not attacking with the 4-3, respecting the field medic. How do you feel about that?
I like that play. I've run into field medic a bunch, and it feels really bad. The tempo loss is huge. It does
Mhm.
miss an attack, but keeping board presence, I think, is it's going to be helpful in the long run.
Yeah, and one thing that sort of happens is, okay, Lights Out Ace doesn't play the field medic, and say you're assuming they do have field medic in the hand, is Lights Out Ace going to keep three power available every turn? Like, they don't play at fast speed like particularly well. It's not like they have a swath of different ambush cards. It's really just cards like Shrivel and field medic. So here it's going to end up lining up pretty well for them.
Yeah,
But
we see that
yeah.
contract working out quite well, where Shrivel comes down first to shrink the Black Maw, and then the field medic contracts and takes it down.
This is also a turn where the dinosaur nest is going to flip, and then there's just three dinosaurs in the air that's going to crack back for nine. So I wonder if A-Boss is thinking about just playing a Saloon Massacre for one.
I think I would probably just massacre the board.
So
Although
with contract or
yeah, with contract. I guess just because I don't think you're doing anything meaningful enough, like post combat,
hmm
I could see just doing it for one as well. You definitely have to get rid of the dinosaurs before they flip.
hmm Yeah, so there's definitely some pros and cons as to whether or not you wanted to contract there. Part of it depends on if you're choosing to play Vikram here.
Yeah, I would have elected to not play Vikram, um, but
Well, So the advantage to playing Vikram here is that you know due to Lights Out Ace's debt, they're not able to play Krogar this turn. So you're preventing yourself from getting 2 for 1 in that you're able to attack back at least this turn and then fine, maybe that happens the turn afterwards, but kind of making a tempo play.
Good point.
So here we know that Lights Out Ace has both Call to Hit and Krogar, but ABoss kind of forcing out the Call to Hit instead of getting 2 for 1 by virtually 2 for 1 by the Krogar. So ultimately kind of being paid off for that aggressive use of Vikram.
Yeah, is getting the damage in.
I wonder what we see here though. Okay, so getting rid of the nest. So that's kind of what we talked about during the pregame, where there ends up being a lot of relative sizing. ABoss playing Exodus in their deck. The Sheltered Valley also makes certain cards line up a little bit differently in terms of the relative sizing. So the other dinosaurs in Lights Out Ace deck, of which there's not many, but Evelina and just other dinosaurs nests are a reason why you might want to go after that.
Yeah, the dinosaur nest sitting there doesn't look like it's doing much without any dinosaurs actually in play. But between the Carnosaur and the Evelina, I think there are enough dinosaur threats that getting it off the board for relatively free it is worth it.
Right? It's always interesting to think about how many turns in advance people are trying to play. Like, okay, this play might be worse this turn, but it's actually great 5 turns from now or something like that. One play we could have seen from Lights Out Ace is to, through the unknown, back a shadow unit to be able to kill the Stonebreaker bow when it tried attacking. Uh, but kind of saving it for a better threat. So they don't have something like Carnosaur in the grave in the void. I think it would have only been the rat that they could have gotten back. So they're just saying like, fine, I'll just lose my Rat King because I'd rather have a 5/5.
Yeah, and it's interesting how close these matchups are coming down to. I mean, every one of these attacks is really mattering. The life totals are fairly even. The board is fairly even. This is quite a slog.
Yeah,
Though ABoss is pretty much out of gas.
one card we haven't seen yet is Dunehill Clan from either side. So like a single Dunehill Clan from ABoss here would really just almost pull them ahead. But right now they're kind of just running on empty, just hoping that the top of the deck can bring something. And Lights Out Ace is gonna, you know, just bring the beat down here. Probably see a trade here.
Yeah, that second Krogar is just pushing Lights Out Ace over the top right now.
Yeah, I think we might even see just through the unknown for another Krogar to threaten lethal next turn. And you can do that, and you can play Waystone Igniter if you wanted to.
Oh, it looks like we're just gonna waste on an Igniter and save through the unknown.
Yeah, it's a little bit more conservative and gives you maybe a little bit more flexibility. I'm not completely sure. Um, yeah, so now that you have the Vikram, you could try to play a little bit more aggressively. So if you can like try to take the Waystone Igniter if you wanted to, but choosing to be a little bit more defensive here, which I think is good. Like since you didn't blow the through the unknown, then your Vikrams are a little bit better as long as they don't get Krogard, so you could look for a better spot to use Vikram. So one consideration for ABoss is to double block the Krogar. It's bad against Shrivel, but it's good against everything else.
Yeah, I like that play. It does put him a little low if the field medic gets removed.
Hmm.
Okay, now we see through the unknown bringing back Krogar.
Hmm.
ABoss needs something big here.
Is a tome big? It's a book.
You know, it's got knowledge in it, but that knowledge is not helpful enough.
All right,
As we see
so
Lights Out Ace take game one.
yep. So just as a reminder, throughout this whole tournament, but this is no exception, the players are gonna obey play draw. So we'll see how long it takes to queue up for the next game, but they're gonna keep on going until ABoss is either on the player draw, whichever one they prefer, likely being on the play. So we'll cut to an infographic or whatever you want to call them, the player slides. So Lights Out Ace, definitely a name that if you've just been around Eternal, you know, from being previous World Championship, therefore two-time Worlds competitor, and as a fun fact, won every type of official and community Eternal event except for ETS Worlds and a TNE Invitational.
Wow, that is impressive. I mean, Lights Out Ace has been around for a while and been winning a lot of stuff, but I didn't realize just quite how many different events that he's won. That's an impressive resume.
Yeah, they even did a one and done in the TNE challenges, just playing in the first one and winning. I think it was with like a Stone Scar mid-range deck in the old Expedition format, if I recall correctly, with like Show. I mean, it might even be the current one, but um, no, it was the previous one. Um, but yeah, and their playstyle, grindy shadow mid-range, that sounds about right, and their Xenon deck that they're choosing to play lines up with that as well.
Yeah, definitely right at home with the grindy mid range with Xenon. It doesn't get much more grindy than that.
Let's see if we could cut over to ABoss as well. Yeah, so ABoss here. So also likes the mid-range decks, and they just really like deck building. And wow, only two physical decks survived of a house fire. I don't want to ask too many details on that one, but all right.
Yeah,
So
that hurts. I had a friend lose everything except two decks in a fire also, and
wait,
that's just devastating.
wait, are you friends with ABoss?
Uh, I mean, I'm not. This is a different friend, but I certainly feel his pain.
Hmm. And then you can see during the spring season they had quite a few points. I think they won a challenge, was runner up in a challenge, and just really showed their stuff. I remember they won with Yetis and Throne, and then lost the finals. I think it was to Gosu, where they were playing a Praxis mid range deck, also with Exodus. So Exodus seems to be a promo card they really like putting in their deck, seeing that a few copies of them of Exodus are in their Destruction mid range deck.
Yeah, pretty impressive to only play 8 events and top eight 4 of them. Like that's solid showing.
All right, so cutting down to the match with ABoss going first. So a one power hand, even with the one inscribed card, still probably not good.
No, definitely not going to keep that. Meanwhile, I don't think you keep Lights Out Ace's hand either. So once again, I expect both players to redraw at least the first hand. So if you're a boss and you're on the play, does that change how you approach this matchup?
Hmm. It's tough. Like the matchup's so grindy. I feel like things just go late that you just try to not fall too far behind in the beginning and then just see how things play out later on.
Yeah, I think the Waystone Igniter on turn 1 is pretty important. I would definitely prioritize getting that down.
Hmm.
Ooh, this redraw is not exciting. You probably have to keep it because it's better than most 6, just
Hmm.
because your power is good, but you're really relying on the top of your deck to help you out a lot.
Yeah. Lights out Ace's hand. It is actually pretty hard. I think on the draw, I think I send it. I think,
If you had anything to actually devour, it would be interesting, but
yeah, I probably would have
without the
kept.
cheap units.
Right, I probably would have kept if you had something to devour. I think you go down to 6 though.
I
But
agree. I also would have gone to 6 here. I'm way too afraid of missing my time sources. Oh, but Evelina does bail you out. Although, if you inscribe Evelina, you can't shrivel on 2.
yeah, but you are less likely to need to shrivel on 2 against destruction just due to the way their power base develops. Or like feel as inclined to.
That's true. And there wasn't the Waystone Igniter on turn 1 to be afraid of, so.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why Lights Out Ace keeps this hand is just valuing hitting all your power drops and then eventually trying to like Dune Hill Clan. Like it's not like you have nothing to do with your power later on. And then it's also true that ABoss's deck doesn't necessarily punch you as hard. So for instance, they're playing cards like Stonebreaker Bow instead of playing Dinosaur Nest. So a lot of like ABoss doesn't actually get out the gates very quickly. Like besides Waystone Igniter and Field Medic, there's no card that comes out before 3. Like you could play Stonebreaker Bow if you wanted to, but that usually doesn't line up if you're going to respect Field Medic, which ABoss already showed in the previous game they're willing to do. So you can already sculpt your plan around that.
So you think that ABoss's deck does better in the late game than Lights Out Ace's deck?
I think that must be what their belief is if they're playing fire. But just in terms of justifying lights out Ace's keep, I think it does make sense since you know that Waste No Ignite is the only thing that you have to worry about in terms of like getting beat down.
What do you
Um,
think about that attack with the field medic? I mean,
I think
obviously he had the shrivel backup, but
I think it's good. I think I'd do it. Like if ABoss did nothing until turn 5 and this was their like play on 5. Let's see. What could have ABoss done earlier in the game? They could have played Impending Doom. They could have played Aggressive Vikram. They could have played Dune Hill Clan, Still Stronghold. It's like their hand just doesn't seem too good. They could just have clunkers. Like they could just have cards like Call the Hit, Slew Massacre, Exodus, Vikram's Bomb. So I think I actually run that attack even if I don't have Shrivel in my hand. I just think they can't. They can't really block a lot of the times because their hand's so slow. And like a 3/3 on your side isn't going to make or break the game that much.
so interestingly, we didn't attack with the Cloud Scraper. I
Mhm.
guess we're gonna block the
Just try a trade.
Carnosaur.
Yeah. But then it's weird. You like end up in the same spot where Shrivel like blows you out in a similar way. Uh,
Right,
it,
because if you don't call the first time, how do you call the second time? Eventually, somebody has to do something.
right. And if you were a boss and you chose to block the field medic with the Cloud Scraper, then none of the 5 drops could have been played that turn if a Shrivel was played, because they would have only had, 3 power available.
Yeah, that was my hesitation not to send the attack, not because it wasn't safe,
Hmm.
but because it kind of stunts the rest of your turn.
Yeah.
Here, just the Carnosaur comes in, and I guess that's safe even against the double block because the Carnosaur has Deadly, so I do like that attack.
Yeah, so the passing here not playing Waystone Igniter seems like it's just trying to respect or set up like a Devour. So, let's see. If you got Vikram, do you have Call to Hit to check that? I'm trying to think. It must be Vikram's bomb. If you think your Carnosaur has a reasonable probability of getting Vikram's bombed here, which is true, you didn't really give your opponent that much of an opportunity. Like they did choose to play Doonhill Clan last turn instead of bombing. But if you think if the Carnosaur lives, you just win anyways, then I think leaving up the Devour makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, having the Carnosaur get lifesteal and gain all that life back is really huge game for Lights Out Ace right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been saying it since day one. Like Black Model Carnosaur is just like the best 5 drop. Like, okay, maybe Evelina is like in my eyes because of Inscribe, but like on raw like power and stuff, like the Black Model just does everything. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I've definitely been impressed with it the more I've played with it.
So it's kind of interesting that we haven't been seeing these call to hits being inscribed. It leads me to believe that maybe they're trying to set up like a Saloon Massacre line. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, what do you think about three call the hits and no inscribes? I definitely
I
don't mind saving two, but once you have the third one without any targets, I think you just need the power.
yeah, yeah, I think I would have inscribed when I drew the third minimally. Because, like, your debt lines are just so much worse if you don't have more power. And, like, Call the Hit's not even that good in the matchup. It's, like, good against Vikram, and that's about it. Um, so there were no shadow units in the void for Lights Out Ace to be able to, through the unknown, to be able to hit the Stonebreaker bow to protect the Black Maw. But you could just get it back now if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, Lysides does have plenty of things to do, so they don't need the Carnosaur yet.
Yeah, the problem is like, are you looking to just like run your Evelina into the Doomhill clan? Like, I think you're just playing the Black Maw anyways.
And Lysout agrees.
And then you keep the call to hit for Vikram. Like, there's besides Vikram's bomb, there's actually just not a lot of and Vikram's bomb and Vikram proper. There aren't a lot of answers to the Maw Carnosaur. I guess ABoss by playing Fire has access to Still Stronghold, and Black Maw Carnosaur is not a hero, so you're able to kill it with the victimless crime from that site. So that's something they could be looking towards drawing.
Interesting, the Lysout did not block the Dune Hell.
Well, it's probably just playing around another Stonebreaker bow, and they didn't have Field Medic up to be able to ambush the bow, and that's something they could choose to do the next turn.
Yeah, but if they had got, it would have cleared the way for Evelina, which is what I
Hmm.
was thinking.
Hmm.
Although I guess the field medic is gonna stop that.
Yeah, what you're saying's definitely true. Um, yeah, there's some interesting pacing, like just thinking about like how you want the board states to look in a turn cycle is kind of like the crux of the combats that you're discussing.
And I feel like it's a lot easier for Lysides to block because ABoss isn't playing cards like Shrivel, which, affect mid combat. I guess they
Hmm.
do have Bomb, but Bomb is just likely going to kill it before it attacks anyway.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Alright, so Krogar gains us a bit of life after some units trade. And now Carnosaur has Taunt.
Yeah, taunt and
Man, that
deadly
guy's.
is quite the combo, and then you could just play another one of these.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. And it had lifesteal to gain 6 life.
Oh, of course, like it just whatever I want the Carnosaur to do, it just does. I
It's
don't know
kind of
how, but
incredible. It
yeah,
just has abilities coming out of the woodwork.
yeah. If Eternal was a paper game, I feel like I would like mess up the bookkeeping on it a lot. It's like, wait, I gained life of that one this time? I guess so. But luckily, Eternal takes care of all of that for you.
Oh yeah, because that would be a nightmare in paper for sure.
Yeah, so ABoss somehow by having four non-powers in their hand has nothing. Like they have no answer to this Carnosaur. And Lights Out Ace is kind of just going for the kill here, just running out of field medic aggro mode. Through the unknown, back the other Black Maw. Oh, Evelina, yeah, just going for lethal. Or close to lethal, one off. I mean, this through the unknown off the top makes it lethal, I guess.
Wow. Yeah, and that's gonna do it. ABoss has nothing to do to interact with any of this.
Yeah, so it looks like the two faction deck, able to, playing the right threats and able to develop appropriately and taking that down 2-0.
Very impressive showing from both players.
I'm just I'm just refreshing the
And
bracket. So it looks like that was the last match. So just to give you who has advanced through to the top four, on the top half of the bracket, we'll be seeing Gosu against Lights Out Ace. And in the lower half of the bracket, we'll be seeing Prakalakin against Game Grump. So just to recap what those decks are, we're going to see Elysian with the new promo, the Nom Noms. I don't even know what it's fully called. Some Nom Nom card. Uh,
Oh,
against
Nanob's Pan, is it?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Against Lights Out Ace, who we just saw on camera. Prakalackin on Destruction Heroes against Game Grump playing Xenon mid. So two Xenon mid, Elysian, and Destruction Heroes. So we're gonna have a quick commercial break, but before you know it, we'll be looking at the top four and see how it shakes out.